Well, good afternoon. It is 2 p.m. on July 26th, and we are going to go ahead and get started. We do have 43 slides of material to get through, so I want to make sure that we have time to get through all of that, and then potentially a little bit of time for questions at the end if possible. So welcome, everyone. This is the Town Hall, the special report on Michigan school meals. Just a couple reminders, please use the Q&A option in Zoom for all of your questions. We will only respond to the questions in the Q&A so that everybody can see the questions and answers. There is a chat box. Please refrain from putting any questions in the chat box. My team typically put all sorts of links and materials in the chat box, so they will be filling that with information as we go through the slides. Again, thanks for joining. We will be posting the town hall on our specific webpage that we put all of the town halls on. We will have a professional development certificate available on the website as well. And just a reminder, our next town hall will be August 16th. So if there's things we don't cover today, definitely come back on the 16th. We will have more updates on Michigan school meals and everything else back to school on that day. Okay. So there have been several staff changes within the Office of Health and Nutrition Services, and we just want to start out with going through that. First, the director's office. Big news out of the director's office. A few months back, Dr. Diane Golzinski was promoted to Deputy Superintendent of Finance and Operations at MDE. Super excited for her. We will still have the pleasure of her advocacy. She'll just be at a higher level as she now oversees several offices. And luckily for us, the Office of Health and Nutrition Services is in her division. So congratulations to her. And then next, Stephanie Willingham. She left us a few weeks back. She actually is headed west to the USDA Mountain Plains Regional Office in Denver. She too will still be supporting the child nutrition programs, as she is the new child nutrition division director in that region and is going to be helping all of our partners out west navigate the child nutrition programs. So where does that leave the director's office? Well, currently in the director's office, there are two of us. We're both interim. Amy Alaniz is the interim OH&S director. I believe she was on the last town hall. She is unable to make it today, so there's me. I accepted the interim assistant director position just a few weeks ago, just in time for Michigan school meals to get rolled out, and I am super excited about this opportunity to be with all of you here today. So next, some other staff changes I just want to cover. In the school nutrition programs unit, Callie Gavoric came to us. She is the new school district consultant over the fresh fruit and vegetable program, also food safety and professional standards. She is a chef and a registered dietitian and has experience in school nutrition, and we are super excited to bring her on board. Next, we have Victoria Smalls. She is a department specialist within the school nutrition programs unit. She came to us from the Center of Education Performance and Information, or CEPI, our partners that do our direct certification work for us. And she will be working with pandemic EBT as we finish that up this year. And then she'll also be working on summer EBT next year and then other student eligibility projects. Next, we have Caitlin Wood is back in a contractor role to help us with Michigan school meals, also the community eligibility program expansion, and then also the summer food service program non-congregate potential expansion. And lastly, Cheyenne Liberty is transitioning from the fresh fruit and vegetable program into the farm to program and 10 cents a meal program. Cheyenne took excellent care of fresh fruit and vegetable over the last year, and we are so excited to have her on board to support our farm to program work. Okay, so the moment you've all been waiting for, if there was a drum roll, it would happen right now, but we are here to talk about Michigan school meals. So the fiscal year 2024 state school aid budget was signed last Thursday, July 20th, 2023. And it included Section 30D, Universal School Meals. This item in the budget provides meals at no cost to all students through a state-funded reimbursement program. I just want to take a second to thank all of the partners that helped get us to where we are today. So the American Heart Association, No Kid Hungry and No Kid Hungry Michigan, the School Nutrition Association of Michigan, our partners in the state legislature, Governor Whitmer's office, and then my team here at MDE. Without all of these partners, we could not have gotten to where we are. So the official name that we are going to use to brand the program is Michigan School Meals. You might hear Universal Meals, you might hear Healthy School Meals for All. You potentially could hear 30D because that's what it is in the state budget, and Michigan School Meals. All the same thing, but moving forward, just so we have a brand that we can promote, not just to all of you, but to our parents and families out in Michigan, we are going to go with Michigan School Meals. So the good news is when the budget was signed last week, there was something called a supplemental to the fiscal year 22-23 budget that allows us to start the program when the school year starts. So I know there's some kids in Lapeer, Michigan that started school today. So lucky for them, they are officially able to partake in Michigan School Meals if that is what's going to happen there. So the rest of you, I know my kids don't start school for at least 4 more weeks, but you will have time to get everything put together and start the program the first day of school. So let's talk about who is eligible for the Michigan School Meals reimbursement. So the first couple of things: meals served to students who attend public school districts, public school academies, intermediate school districts are all eligible for the state reimbursement. Oh. Sorry. The reimbursement covers meals served to children in pre-kindergarten classrooms, such as the Great Start Readiness Program or tuition-based 4-year-old preschool classrooms, students in kindergarten to grade 12, and then students in special education programs up to age 26. So the state aid budget language specifically states pre-K. So I feel it is necessary to address the definition of pre-kindergarten, as there may be some confusion. So directly from the Great Start Readiness Implementation Manual, we define pre-kindergarten as children who are age 4 by either September 1st or December 1st, depending on the local school district's criteria. Children who are not eligible to attend kindergarten the following year do not qualify for the GSRP program and are not considered pre-kindergarten. So pre-kindergarten, GSRP, and/or tuition-based 4-year-old preschool classrooms may participate in the Michigan School Meals state reimbursement and be claimed through NSLP and SBP. So unfortunately, the Michigan School Meals state reimbursement will not cover all meals served across the state. And here is the list that it does not cover at this time. So meals served in non-public schools are not eligible for reimbursement, for the state reimbursement. Still eligible for the federal reimbursement, but not the state reimbursement. So this includes non-public schools that are their own sponsor, or when there is an alternate agreement school with a local school district. Next is meals served in GSRP or other preschool programs that are part of community-based organizations or CBOs. So only those GSRP meals that are served in school districts or school programs are eligible for the reimbursement. The next one, and we all recognize this is a substantial change from programming, but meals served to children aged 3 and under are not eligible for the Michigan School Meals state reimbursement and will need to be claimed under CACFP. With that being said, my staff will work with every sponsor individually if we need to make adjustments in your programming so that every meal can be claimed in the appropriate program moving forward. And then lastly, meals served to teachers and staff must continue to be charged according to the federal regulations and are not eligible for the state reimbursement. So what are the requirements? For eligible sponsors that plan to participate in the Michigan School Meals program, program requirements include, but are not limited to, the following items. So all schools must participate in both the National School Lunch and School Breakfast program and follow all the USDA regulations for those programs. So if you happen to have a site that you're not currently serving breakfast in, you will need to start serving breakfast there at the start of the school year. The next one is the implementation of the community eligibility provision. And that can be on behalf of a single school, a group or groups of schools, or all the schools in the district. You have to implement CEP and maximize the federal reimbursement through that program. Next, sponsors must take all efforts to maximize and implement policies to collect relevant family income information for the purposes of determining student eligibility and for federal meal reimbursement. So traditional free, reduced price paid schools must continue to use the meal application, and CEP schools must continue to use what we now call the education benefit forms. So to translate that, we have to still continue to collect forms from our households and families across the state. And there's some specific slides that will get into that soon. Next, write off all outstanding school meal negative balances. Again, there'll be some more slides on that, and we actually have some money to help sponsors complete that part of the process. Lastly, keep in mind, we want everyone to participate in Michigan School Meals, but it is an optional program. If you can't meet all the requirements that are written into the legislation, it is optional. There are some recommendations that were written into the legislation. Basically, participating entities are encouraged to offer meals that meet students' dietary restrictions, including the provision of gluten-free meals, vegetarian meals, vegan meals, and upon request, kosher meals, halal meals, and meals. And this is a federal thing, so this never changed, is meals that meet any allergy restrictions or special dietary needs based on a doctor's note. So this is encouraged, but this is nothing new. Like, we've always wanted you to provide meals that are culturally relevant to your students. So it just is now a little bit stronger. It's written into the state legislation, and we will, as we dig into technical assistance, we will help provide guidance and materials to help you put together meals that meet these needs. Okay, so already planning to participate in the Michigan school meals. So what's next? Well, the biggest step is going to be doing an amendment, potentially, unless you have not started your coordinated application for this school year, then it'll just be to start your coordinated application. But if you've already started it, then you'll have to make an amendment. What I don't want anyone to do is jump on there and make an amendment today. One, the system's not ready. And two, we really want to put out some more material and guidance before we have anybody going into Nexus and doing anything. But here are some details on what you can expect when you finally are able to log into Nexus and apply for the program. So this is a screenshot of the National School Lunch and Breakfast Sponsored Details page. This is what the questions will look like for how to opt into Michigan school meals. The questions will display on the National School Breakfast and Lunch Sponsored Details page. Question 7 is where you answer yes or no for Michigan school meals. It will display for all sponsors participating in the National School Lunch Program, but will only allow public school districts, public school academies, and intermediate school districts to answer yes. Then question 8 is for negative balances and showing the total negative student meal account balance. Question 9 is for showing the negative student balances were written off. So like I said, don't go in there today. You're not going to see it. We hope to have these questions pushed to the application in the next couple of weeks, and we'll provide detailed instructions on how to document the negative student balances. We definitely will put out a bulletin when it's time to go in. Until you see that bulletin, even if you happen to log into Nexus, some of you are making changes to your summer food service applications and whatnot, please don't make any amendments on this Michigan school meals questions until you see the bulletin come out from us. I really want everyone out there and all of my team to avoid any unnecessary work. And if if you don't answer correctly, then it just could potentially cause you more work in the end. So meal service in the Michigan school meals. So the biggest thing is it's still congregate meal service is required in the National School Lunch and Breakfast programs. Meals may not be taken off campus, sent home, delivered, or picked up by parents or others. Meals just cannot be sent home like they were during the pandemic. We are past that. This is a different program, and it is a congregate meal program for meals served in schools. Keep in mind, field trips. We have always allowed field trips, and field trip related meals are allowable as long as they meet the federal requirements. And the last note on that is, yes, family style meal service is required in the Great Start Readiness program, and it is allowable. So the other thing you need to know is school breakfast and lunch can only operate on academic school days. And that's all you can do with the Michigan School Meals program as well. We still do have other federal child nutrition programs, such as the Summer Food Service Program and the Child and Adult Care Food Program, that may be available for you to join if you're not already in those programs, and you could potentially use them to serve on non-academic days. Keep in mind, participation in the Michigan School Meals requires that schools follow the National School Lunch, National School Breakfast, and preschool meal patterns. And then any other federal requirements are still there and still have to be followed. All of the meals claimed have to be reimbursable, and students must still be charged for a la carte and second meals. So let's transition into eligibility with the Michigan School Meals program. The first one we'll start with is direct certification. Nothing has changed. Direct certification still has to be done. On the slide, you can see the calendar of availability for the refreshes. We will send out a bulletin at some point in the near future that has the full calendar, but the expectation is that you continue to run direct cert and extend eligibility as often as possible. And in this change of programming, it's going to be super important that you do that, because families over time are going to question, I'm not paying for meals. Why do I have to fill out forms? Why do I have to do this? We want to make sure that we still get all of that eligibility data in for all of the schools across the state. So we really need everyone to continue to do everything they've done in the past, and then maybe more, to get that data. And direct certification is one of the ways that helps us collect that data. So the next piece is the school meals application and related documents. I know quite a few of you have been waiting to get word from us on what to do with your applications. And some of you have maybe already printed applications, and you know what? That's absolutely fine. For this year, if you've got them out, you can use them. The key is that we get families to fill them out and get them returned and get them approved and get that information documented as to free, reduced price and paid eligibility. So for the Michigan School Meals Program, we specifically rebranded the application to this: the application for summer EBT and education benefits for the Michigan School Meals Program. It's the same free and reduced application that we've had in the past. It just has a different title, as we're trying to figure out how to tie everything together the best as possible and to make it still seem important for parents to want to fill it out. So along with the application itself, there is a bunch of other materials that were also updated to reflect meals are free, but that these documents are still necessary. Like I said, those of you, I know there are schools that have already printed the school meals and summer EBT application that we've had on our website for a couple of months now. If you're a traditional claim school, you just have to make sure you use one of them. Although I will say, on the next slide, I'll cover some marketing materials that you may want to use to help your families understand why the forms are still important, even though I'm not paying, or even though no one's paying for meals. One thing I want to point out is making sure to look at the approval disapproval letter for households, because it even that is updated to reflect participation in the Michigan school meals. All of these materials will be posted on the Michigan School Meals website, which I was told was going to be rolled out about noon today. So it may already be up there. And the last thing is just to iterate again, if you're a traditional claim sponsor, and even though you're receiving the Michigan School Meals reimbursement, the federal requirements still all apply. One of them is verification. So if you were collecting the new titled application for free and reduced price meals, you still have to verify. That's a federal requirement. At this time, we can't make any changes to that. So just keep that in mind. The verification deadline to start it is October 1, and you will need to be ready to do that. So to assist with communication to households for why applications are still necessary, like I said, we have created a school meals letter to households. We have created a flyer called Don't Scrap the App. We have some social media post templates to help you explain why these forms are still necessary and important. And more items will be added as they are developed. So please keep checking back to our Michigan School Meals website. We'll also send notices in our bulletins and our CN News But I definitely encourage everyone to use our materials, whether it's posting them in your buildings, on your websites, adding it to your menu, robocalls. The more you push out the importance of completing the applications, the better. Okay. So moving on to our CEP sponsors, or community eligibility provision sponsors. For districts or public school academies where all sites are already at 100% free federal reimbursement, you do not actually need to opt in to the Michigan School Meals Program. All of your meals are already being reimbursed at the highest federal free rate, so the state will not provide any additional reimbursement for that. Now, for districts where sites are not 100% free reimbursement, you're going to need to consider opting in, as the state will provide additional reimbursement to make up the difference between the paid and the free reimbursement, so that then all of your meals will get reimbursed at the free rate, but it will be a combination of federal dollars and state dollars. So the other piece to community eligibility provision is the education benefits forms. So in CEP schools, federal regulations prohibit the use of like the free and reduced school meal application. So years and years ago, we developed something that currently is being called the education benefits form. It's a similar form where we collect income information from families. If you have students in CEP buildings that are directly certified, they don't need to fill out that education benefit form, but everyone else in the building should get one filled out to determine if they are eligible for any sort of other benefits. So we have just recently translated the education benefit form and its attached materials into 12 additional languages. So that includes the letter to household, the form itself, and the sharing information form. We still have the education benefit form with the annual income rate ranges. That one we didn't get translated as it needs to get updated annually. But the one that does not need to be updated annually is in 12 new languages. If you need a copy of any of those translated documents, please email us at the email on the slide. So, like with the application materials we created, it's more than a form flyer. And social media posts, templates to assist with communication to households for why forms are still necessary and important. And those will also be posted on the Michigan School Meals website. So CEP is a big beast of a program in itself. So we are offering 3 different webinars tomorrow to help all of you navigate CEP, especially if it looks like it's advantageous for you to join, or you have to join because you are going to do Michigan School Meals. So each webinar is directed at a specific group of sponsors to help explain the Michigan School Meals and CEP for this upcoming school year. Please try to participate in the webinar if you can. They will be recorded, and Natalie and her partners will go into way more detail on the forms beyond what I just did on the previous slide. So please try to attend. If you are CEP district-wide, your webinars at 10 a.m. tomorrow. If you're partial CEP, and that will be the group where it might be tricky to navigate Michigan School Meals and CEP, your webinars at 1 p.m. And then if you're not currently participating in CEP, but going to be new to CEP, please join us at 3 o'clock tomorrow. So point of service is still very important with the Michigan School Meals. As I just said, reimbursement for traditional claiming schools is going to be based on free, reduced, and paid student status. And the way the students need to be counted that way. So schools that are not in CEP must count and claim meals based on the eligibility of the student receiving the meal. Students will receive meals at no charge, but must be correctly listed on the meal eligibility rosters or electronic systems according to their actual school meal eligibility status. So basically, if you're in a traditional claim school where the kids are still free, reduced, and paid, nothing is changing for you. You still have to follow the federal rules. You still have to have a point of service that counts the meals at free, reduced price, and paid. If you are a CEP school, whether you're an existing CEP school or a new CEP school, we have CEP meal count sheets available. But truly best practice is that you continue to use your electronic point of sale system. And think about it, if you have any sort of a la carte or other food that you're selling, you're going to want to continue to use that electronic point of sale system. The other part is that this program, just like the federal program, only reimburses for 1 breakfast and 1 lunch per day per student. Any second meals or anything like that would be considered a la carte. Okay, so claims. Filing your claims for the school nutrition programs will remain the same. It will be in Mind 2.0, and it won't look different in the way that you enter the numbers into the system. Just make sure you continue to use the correct eligibility category of paid, free, and reduced price, unless you are CEP. Mind is going to, behind the scenes, calculate your federal and state reimbursement amounts. One thing I want to say is, because we are just digging into the claims requirements at this time, if you are participating in Michigan School Meals and are starting right now in the month of July, please hold off on submitting your claim for July until we let you know that it's good to go. If your district is not participating in the Michigan School Meals program, so our residential child care institutions, and any other school that does not qualify for the state reimbursement, you can go ahead and submit your July claim. But anyone that's going to need a July claim that includes the Michigan School Meals reimbursement, please hold off until we are ready for you to submit it. So reimbursement for Michigan School Meals, how is it going to work? Well, there'll be 2 parts. The first part will be the federal reimbursement, the same as it always has been, nothing different there. The second part will be a payment from the state of Michigan that covers the difference between the free meal federal reimbursement and the reduced price and paid meal federal reimbursement. So in regards, like I said on the last slide, in regards to the claim and the reimbursement, there will be more information likely on the August 16th town hall about the claims process, the reimbursement process, and how to understand reporting or reports that we provide to you on all of these things through our system. So schools may continue to sell a la carte items that meet the federal smart snack requirements. Items need to be priced according to the federal non-program food revenue requirements. A carton of milk alone, an extra milk, or a second meal are considered a la carte and must be priced accordingly. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that, because we did get a lot of that during COVID. I understand kids want to just take a carton of milk sometimes, but that does not qualify as a reimbursable meal. And you know, if you're going to, if they want an extra milk, they need to pay for it as well. The smart snack rules still apply. And so fundraisers may take place up to 2 times per week per building, but they have to meet the smart snack. You can still have fundraisers that don't meet the smart snack requirements, but you can only have 2 of them per week per building. Okay. So meals through the Child and Adult Care Food Program. Many of you operate the CACFP for either so many of you operate this program already for the daytime snack potentially with your GSRP students. But keep in mind, it is a completely separate federal program from the National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program. And it is not part of the Michigan School Meals, and it is not part of CEP either. But just to remind everyone that meals through CACFP must follow all of the regulations for determining eligibility, for counting meals at point of service, and claiming meals for reimbursement. And this applies to your at-risk after-school snack and or supper. And it also applies to meals or snacks served in all other licensed childcare programs, including GSRP. And so I think what I really want to hone in on here is GSRP breakfast and lunch can be claimed through the National School Lunch Program. But just as it has always been, your daytime snacks for GSRP have to be claimed through the Child and Adult Care Food Program, unless you have some other situation set up with your GSRP partners. So just keep that in mind. All of the snacks that you would serve in your GSRP classrooms have to meet those requirements. So eligibility requirements, keep in mind, GSRP classrooms are going to be expanded and a whole bunch more kids are going to be eligible for GSRP, but that doesn't necessarily mean they'll meet the eligibility standards for free and reduced price meals. So, you know, those snacks will have to be counted appropriately. And on the August 16th town hall, the CACFP team will have some more slides to talk specifically about the Great Start Readiness Program. So the next one, the after school snack program in the National School Lunch Program, the Michigan School Meal State Reimbursement does not apply to those snacks. Keep in mind that eligibility will need to be determined via that application for summer EBT and education benefits for the Michigan School Meals Program and or direct certification. And if your snack site is non-area eligible, you will need to count snacks by free, reduced price, and paid student eligibility. So the federal reimbursement rates for school year 23-24 have been published. Last year, we enjoyed an additional 40 cents reimbursement for lunch with the Keep Kids Fed Act. Unfortunately, that was not renewed, so there is a decrease in reimbursement, but only 8 cents for free lunch. And actually there's an increase for breakfast of 2 cents for non-severe need and 6 cents for severe need. And I know we just put out the memo on reimbursement rates. So if you haven't seen that, maybe contact one of us and we can get it out to you. Okay. Do sponsors still need to complete the paid lunch equity PLE tool? So sponsors that opt into Michigan school meals are considered non-pricing and are exempt from PLE pricing requirements. Sponsors that do not opt in will still be required to complete the PLE tool unless they are CEP district-wide. And non-public schools are still required to complete the PLE tool. Writing off negative balances. So forgiving or writing off student meal negative balances is one of the requirements for participating and receiving funding in Michigan school meals or the 30D state reimbursement. This applies to all negative balances for current active enrolled students, as well as inactive students that are on the books as of June 30th, 2023. The write-off journal entries can take place this summer. Documentation will be collected in the 2024 coordinated application. So when you make those amendments next month, not until then, additional details about this requirement will be posted on our Michigan School Meals website. So 31K is back. One of the things to help with all of this negative debt and for you to all be able to opt into Michigan School Meals, 31K is back. Only for school year 23-24, there was a line item in the state school aid budget to fund money for grant payments to reimburse school districts for the cost of forgiving all outstanding school meal negative balances for current students. This is a nice bonus since writing off negative balances is required, like I said earlier, for the Michigan School Meals program. A total of $2.5 million can be awarded to eligible districts that apply. This grant is optional. The application will go live sometime early August, and we'll have to have a firm deadline to apply no later than October 1st, 2023. Submissions will be evaluated and payments for selected districts will be made within 60 days. Funds can potentially be prorated if there's not enough to cover all of the eligible submissions. To be eligible, districts must adopt meal charge policies that prevent all forms of lunch shaming, and you must also write off current student meal negative balances with a transfer from the general fund. Previous awardees of 31K in school year 2020-2021 are not eligible. More details and a link in the application will be sent out through the CNP News. We also have additional information on our Michigan School Meals website. So the MDE adult pricing guide has been updated with the new NSLP reimbursement rates. That pricing guide and the a la carte pricing worksheet can be found on our website. They will also be sent out in a bulletin this week. If you have any questions, please contact the fiscal monitoring team with anything that you might need help with on the pricing guide or any of the other requirements. So USDA Foods entitlement update. So the NSLP USDA Foods per meal entitlement rate will be 0.2950 cents plus the 12% provision dollars and the commodity breakfast dollars to make the total effective school year 24 NSLP rate 0.3650 cents. This is a decrease from last year. The CACFP meal rate will also decrease to 0.2950 cents. Last year, it was 0.3. Reminder that each district's school year 23-24 USDA foods entitlement estimation will soon be recalculated using your actual lunch claims from school year 22-23. So watch for an updated PAL report from your USDA Foods Consortium in late August that will reflect your final USDA foods budget. So the fresh fruit and vegetable program. Last year's FFVP grant recipients may continue to spend grant funds until September 30th, 2023. I just want to remind you that these funds can only be used during the school year and during school hours. They cannot be used during the summer. Many schools have funds left to draw, so please check with your business office to make sure that they are drawing down the grant funds in Nexus to match expenses of fresh fruit and vegetables spent thus far. For those who would like to participate this upcoming school year, the new grant period begins October 1st. Grantees that would like to participate during the remainder of school year 23-24 will need to apply again. And that application is open right now for new and previous recipients of the grant. Interested sites must be an elementary school, participate in the NSLP, and represent the highest percentage of students certified for free/reduced price benefits. Visit our website below for a list of eligible sites. The application must be submitted by 5 p.m. Friday, August 25th. If you have any questions, please send those to the FFVP email or attend our office hours that will be Thursday, August 17th at 9 a.m. So fiscal year 2024 equipment assistance grant application. That deadline is coming up soon. It is Monday, July 31st at 11:59 p.m. Unfortunately, we cannot accept late applications due to the competitive federal grant requirements. More information and a guide for completing that grant application can be found at the web address there on the slide. Please contact our fiscal monitoring team well before the deadline if you need assistance. So today, tomorrow, don't wait till next week. We do have a limited staff working with the grant, or our knowledge, really it's more about being knowledgeable in the grant. And we anticipate lots of questions and we will work through them as quickly as possible. But please, if you have any questions, even today, let us know. So, school breakfast expansion grant. We are going to offer another school breakfast expansion grant this school year. It is available now in Nexus too. You can, let's see. Sponsors that completed the 2023 school breakfast grant application can initiate the 2024 application and select the previous year's application to roll over information into the new application. There is a Nexus user guide with step-by-step instructions on how to complete the application. This competitive application is due September 6, 2023. The school breakfast expansion grant is up to $10,000. The goal of the grant is to establish, maintain, or expand the school breakfast program at severe need schools. A severe need school is a school that served at least 40% of their lunches to free and reduced price students. Visit the school breakfast program expansion grant webpage for more information. And if you have questions, our consultant, Sarah Harmon, will be happy to answer those for you. So 10 cents a meal for Michigan's kids and farms. The program year for 10 cents a meal runs September to August. The final deadline for submission of invoice data is September 15th, 2023, and will be paid on the October state aid payment. We do expect the new application to be available mid-September. The legislation requires periodic surveys to participate in the program. Reimbursement won't be processed without those completed surveys. There has been one survey so far this year. Please reach out if you have not completed that initial survey yet. If you don't have a 10 cents a meal task in GEMS Mars, don't wait to get started on the steps for approval. A step-by-step user guide is in the chat. So local foods for schools. Local foods for schools invoice data submitted through June has been processed this week, and it's totaling $3 million. We are in the process of reallocating the remaining dollars, and new awards for participating schools will be available soon. The final submission deadline for items purchased through September is October 10th. If you did not yet have a task in GEMS Mars for the local foods for schools, we recommend you start the process soon. There's also a user guide for that in the chat as well. So a Michigan Farm to Institution Network Lunchtime Webinar. In this webinar, this webinar is for institutional buyers. You will learn how to set up or update your market maker account and profile to use the database to find farms and food businesses interested in selling local foods. You will also learn tips to help you find the right supplier for your food service program, including the new Cultivate Michigan affiliation. So this webinar is tomorrow. The registration link is in the chat. Summer food service program and farm to summer. So July is farm to summer month, and the MDE Eat Up summer food service program celebrated farm to summer week, July 10th through July 14th. The SFSP team here at MDE thanks you for participating in the farm to summer week, and we hope you continue to celebrate farm to summer month throughout the rest of July. The SFSP team would love to share your success, so please feel free to share any pictures taken at your sites during Farm to Summer Week, along with menus that highlighted local foods served during your meal services. Please send those pictures, if you have them, to the SFSP web email. Next, the Meetup Eat Up Summer Food Service Program Turn Up the Beat Award recognizes outstanding SFSP sponsors across Michigan who work hard to offer high quality meals that are appetizing, appealing, and nutritious during the summer months. 3 award levels are available: bronze, silver, and gold, and are open to all sponsors. Continue your Farm to Summer Week success by applying for the 2023 Turn Up the Beat Award. Be on the lookout for more details about the Turn Up the Beat, how to nominate a sponsor, and when nominations are due. Okay. So No Kid Hungry Michigan is excited to announce the availability of some funding to help with the collection of school meal applications for this upcoming school year. So this is great news. Possible uses could be for giveaways or gift cards that can be raffled off in a building that collects the most free and reduced applications. More details will come out from No Kid Hungry. That money will come directly from them. It's a limited dollar amount, but they are here to help all of you in this new world of Michigan school meals and connecting free and reduced applications to it all. So please be on the lookout for that. Okay. I see we have a lot of questions. I am going to turn it over to my team if anyone has any specific things that look like they need to be discussed. I will.
Melanie?
Yep, go ahead, Melissa.
There were several questions in there on how the new program is run when you have half days regarding lunch service. Do you have any information on that?
So half days would be the same as it has been. You can opt to do like a lunch in the classroom while the kids are still in there, or you could set up a time at the end of the day. The thing about half days is you can't send meals home on the bus. So you would have to build into that half day schedule a time for the kids to eat in a congregate setting within the building. But yes, you can definitely offer meals on half days. It's best practice to still offer meals, but you will have to make sure it's built into the half day schedule.
What if they normally did not serve meals on or a lunch on a half day? Would that affect their eligibility to participate?
No. No.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see an attendee with their hand up, so. Oh.
Maybe that person could just type their question in the Q&A.
I know, I'm trying to figure out how to unmute them. Oh, and they went away.
Melanie, there was a question on what's going on with potentially making this a permanent program.
So a couple of things. The way it was written into the state budget, it's a continuing item that should be there every year in the state school aid, but there still is a need to put it into permanent legislation. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just did something to my screens. So there is, like I said, in the state budget, the way it was written, it should be a continuing item that will show up every year. That said, there still is a group working to put permanent legislation so that it's also in permanent law in the state. So there's two things going on. There may be more information from the advocacy group that pushed to get it in the state budget. We would need it to be promulgated into law before we can make rules on it. So that is where it would need to be beyond just the state school aid budget. It would need to be written into law permanently. Anything else? We have a minute left.
Hey, Mel, we had a question about what about if you have a delayed start in the morning? Are they required to serve breakfast still to participate in the Michigan School Meals Program? Like maybe once a week, they might have a delayed start on a certain day. Are they required to serve breakfast on that day?
I think that would need to be a case-by-case basis. Remember that if it like lunch is 10 and 2, that's the federal regulations for school lunch is 10 and 2. If they didn't start till 10 o'clock, then what makes sense Does it make sense to do breakfast at 10? I guess maybe it would if they weren't going to serve lunch till 1 o'clock. But I would say for sponsors that have those situations, please reach out to your analyst and have them talk you through what makes sense. Okay, and with that, it's 3 o'clock. Please, if you have any further questions, we got a lot of questions today. So one, give us some time to dig through all of that and update our FAQs. But if you still have more questions beyond what was talked about here or what you got answered in the chat, please email us at one of the many email addresses that we have available, and we will respond as quickly as we can. Thank you.